I remember the first night I saw her lantern. It was long ago, in a village tucked deep beneath a winter sky. The sort of place where snow gathers on the rooftops like thick white blankets, and smoke curls slowly upward from old stone chimneys. I was passing overhead in my sleigh, the reindeer steady and sure, the stars wheeling silently above. The world below was mostly asleep, but every now and then I would spot a flicker of light, a shadow moving, someone finishing a last quiet task before the night was truly done. In that village, all the windows were dark, except one. A faint glow moved slowly down a narrow lane, weaving between drifts of snow. At first, I thought it might be a traveler, late on their way home. But the light did not move with the hurried steps of someone eager for warmth. It moved carefully, pausing often, as if it were looking for something. I brought the sleigh lower, until the runners nearly brushed the tips of the rooftops, and peered down more closely. There, in the stillness, walked an old woman in a heavy shawl, her boots leading small, careful prints in the snow. In one hand, she held a worn lantern, its glass scratched and smoky, but glowing warmly all the same. In her other hand, she carried a basket, covered with a cloth to keep the cold from creeping inside. Her shoulders were bent, not only with age, but with something heavier than years. I knew at once who she was. Some call her Baboushka. You may have heard only pieces of her story, an old tale told beside winter fires. But I have seen the truth of it with my own eyes. And on that night, as I watched her move from door to door, I thought of how it all began. In her younger days, Baboushka's house was the tidiest in the village. Her floors were swept until they shone. Her shelves were lined with jars in perfect rows. Her fire was always neatly laid. She was proud of this order, proud that nothing in her home was ever out of place. If a neighbor came to visit, she would offer tea and bread, but she would also watch carefully to be sure no crumbs fell where they shouldn't. One winter night, when the world was very young, and a certain star burned brighter than all the others, 3 travelers came to her village. They were tired from a long journey, their cloaks coated with dust and frost, their faces lined with weariness and wonder. They followed the light of the star and the whispers of an extraordinary birth, carrying gifts for a child they had not yet seen, but already adored. Snow fell lightly as they crossed the village square. They stopped at Baboushka's door, drawn by the warm glow within and the sweet smell of bread and soup. When she opened the door to their knock, a gust of cold air swept in around them, along with the faint scent of distant deserts and long roads. "Good evening," one of them said, bowing politely. "We seek shelter for a short time. We are following a star, you see, to find a newborn child. They say he is a king, though he lies in a humble place. Tomorrow we will continue to follow the light. Will you come with us?" Baboushka frowned. She saw their dusty sandals, their worn faces, their cloaks streaked with mud and snow. She thought of her carefully swept floor, her polished table, her stacked firewood, her blankets folded just so. Guests meant clutter. A journey meant chaos, uncertainty, and the possibility of returning to a house no longer perfect. "The night is cold," she conceded, "so you may rest by my fire. I will give you food." She opened the door wider, and they entered gratefully. She set soup before them and bread and listened as they told their story, of a star that had risen, of prophecies, of a child whose coming would change the world. Their eyes shone as they spoke, not with fever, but with hope. It puzzled her. She had lived many years, and the world, to her mind, changed very little. Snow fell. Spring came, babies were born, people grew old, and life went on as it always had. "A child?" she said, stirring the pot. "A king, you say? And you think he will make so much difference?" "We do not only think," said the oldest of the travelers. "We feel it. Here." He touched his chest. "We have followed the star this far because our hearts would not let us stay behind." Baboushka glanced around her tidy room. Her eyes traveled over every polished surface, every neatly folded cloth. She felt secure in what she could see, what she could straighten, what she could control. "I am too old for adventures," she said at last, "too old to chase stars." "You are never too old to follow light," another traveler replied gently. "Come with us. Bring a gift if you like, something for the child." Baboushka's hand tightened on the handle of her broom. She thought of her shelves, her warm bed, the cold roads outside. "Not tonight," she said. "There is too much to do. Perhaps tomorrow, if I can gather some things. Come back for me then." The travelers looked at one another, and then at her. They rose, thanked her for the meal, and stepped back out into the star-washed night. She watched them go, their figures soon swallowed by the darkness and the falling snow. "I will go tomorrow," she told herself. "I will tidy my house, prepare gifts, and then I will follow. There is always time tomorrow." But by morning, the star had moved on. The sky was thick with clouds. The roads were crisscrossed with wind-blown drifts. The travelers were gone, their footprints already fading. Baboushka prepared her gifts anyway. A small carved toy, a soft blanket, a little loaf of sweet bread, but she hesitated. "I do not know the way," she murmured. "I should have gone when they asked. Perhaps if I wait, the star will return." Days turned into weeks. The world shifted, quietly and forever. But she missed the moment when it happened. News came slowly, in fragments, whispers of shepherds and angels, of a child in a manger, of visitors from far away. Baboushka listened, but the stories came like echoes from a room she had never entered. The regret settled upon her heart like frost. Years passed. The neat house stayed neat. The fire burned as always. But Baboushka began to feel something she had never felt before. Emptiness, as if she had dusted and polished so thoroughly that she had scrubbed away her own chance at wonder. "I could have gone," she would think on cold nights. "I could have seen him. I could have placed my little gifts at his feet. Instead, I stayed here, protecting my order, my comfort, my routines." Regret can become a heavy coat if it is worn too long. Some people let it weigh them down until they scarcely move, but Baboushka did something different. One winter, when the snow lay deep and the world prepared again to celebrate the child she had never seen, she wrapped her shawl around her shoulders, took up her lantern and her basket, and stepped out into the night. "If I cannot find him as he was," she said quietly to the silent street, "then I will look for him as he is now, in every child who needs warmth, in every house where joy has grown thin." And that is how I found her. Back in my sleigh, I watched as she went to the first door and knocked gently. A woman opened it, surprised to see an old stranger standing there in the snow. "I have toys," Baboushka said softly, lifting the cloth from her basket, "and sweet bread, and a blessing for your home, if you will have it." The children inside, who had not expected anything more than simple fare, stared at the little carved animals and dolls with wide eyes. Their faces glowed in the lantern light. The mother's shoulders relaxed. For a moment, the worries of the year eased. Baboushka smiled, a little shyly, and moved on. At the next house, and the next, she did the same. She had only a few things, yet she gave them carefully, choosing where they would bring the most comfort. When she ran low, she did not turn back. The families she had already visited pressed a few coins or small gifts into her hands, insisting she take them. "Give these to someone else," they said. "Pass it on." Her basket, emptied, filled again. "Now do you see?" I murmured to the stars as I watched. "This is what becomes of a regret that turns into a promise." For Baboushka made herself a promise. Every year, when winter came and the world remembered that first holy child, she would go out into the night searching, not for a single house, not for a single manger, but for any place where hope seemed thin and joy seemed small. She would knock and offer what she had, and in doing so, seek the child she had once refused to seek. Some say she never found him. They think of a single moment, a single stable, a single night long past. But I have flown over many villages, many cities, many lonely cottages tucked at the ends of untraveled roads, and I have seen the trail of her lantern. I've seen a child who thought no one remembered his birthday, suddenly receiving a toy that fits perfectly into his hand. I've seen a widow open her door to find a warm shawl waiting, folded neatly, and smelling faintly of wood smoke and cinnamon. I've seen families who had almost given up on one another sit down together over a loaf of sweet bread that came from no one they could name. Every time, I heard the soft creak of a gate closing, the tap of a walking stick in the snow, the fading glow of a lantern disappearing into the night. Sometimes on those nights, I bring my sleigh low and ride beside her for a little while, though unseen. I watch the way her eyes search each window, hopeful, searching for a glimpse of something more than she can name. "Do you still seek him?" I once asked her quietly, knowing she could not hear me, yet saying it all the same. She paused, standing in the lane, lantern held close. A choir was singing in the distant chapel, their voices carrying on the cold air. Somewhere inside a nearby house, a baby laughed, a bright bubbling sound that rose up into the night. "Yes," she whispered, as if answering a voice inside her own heart. "I seek him in each child's face, in each home where kindness is still possible, in every place where love might yet be born." She moved on, leaving footprints that the snow would soon cover, but never erase from the memory of the world. And so, when you hear her story, do not think of Baboushka only as the woman who said not tonight and missed her chance. Think of her as the one who learned that it is never too late to start walking toward the light. The star may no longer hang in the sky as it once did, but its reflection shines in every act of generosity, every small gift given without expecting anything in return. If you ever feel you have waited too long, that you have missed your moment to do good or to change, remember her. Remember the old woman with the lantern and the basket, moving slowly down a winter street, turning regret into kindness, night after night, year after year. And if, on a quiet Christmas Eve, you hear a soft knock at your door and find a simple gift on your step with no name attached, it may be that Baboushka has passed by, still searching, still giving, still following the child she never stopped seeking. Merry Christmas, and may your own lantern of kindness burn bright in the winter night.